My wife looked me dead in the eye and said, "I'm taking a 2-week camping trip with my old high school sweetheart. Don't overthink it." I said, "Cool, have fun." The next day, I rented a truck, moved out, and left a letter. Her meltdown began before her plane landed. I'll never forget that night. The living room was quiet. A movie paused on the screen. When my wife, Lila, walked in, holding her phone like it weighed 100 pounds, she stood between me and the TV, eyes serious, voice steady, and said, "We need to talk." I braced myself for bad news, maybe something about family or health. Instead, she told me she was going on a soul reset trip with Jason, her ex, the guy who had once filled half her photo albums and whose name still floated around in her stories like some nostalgic ghost. I asked, "Just the two of you?" She nodded. "Don't make it weird. This isn't about him. It's about me." I didn't yell. I didn't argue. I didn't beg. I just smiled and said, "Sounds good. Hope you find whatever you're looking for." She seemed shocked at how calm I was. She kissed my forehead like I was some loyal pet and disappeared into the bedroom to keep packing. But what she didn't realize was that I already knew exactly what I was going to do. She wasn't the only one about to discover something. The next morning, Lila was practically glowing. She moved around the kitchen in her leggings and oversized sweater, tossing snacks into Ziploc bags like she was preparing for some grand adventure. Every time she mentioned Jason's name, I felt my stomach tighten, but I didn't let it show. 2 weeks in the mountains, she said cheerfully, dumping granola bars into her backpack. No phones, no internet, just pure clarity. Doesn't that sound amazing? Sounds peaceful, I replied, sipping my coffee. On the outside, I was calm. On the inside, I was already planning my escape. She kept rambling about the soul reset retreat, how they'd meditate at sunrise, journal at night, and spend their afternoons hiking. "It's not about Jason," she insisted. "It's about me finding balance again." I nodded like a supportive husband, but I couldn't stop thinking about the irony. She wanted to find balance by running off with the guy she used to kiss in the back of his pickup truck. For the next 3 days, it was all she talked about. New yoga pants, bug spray, essential oils. She even bought a brand new journal with "Begin Again" stamped on the cover. I watched quietly, knowing she had no clue what I was about to do. Tuesday morning, I drove her to the airport. She kissed me quickly, almost distracted, and said, "Don't forget to water the plants." Then she vanished into the security line without looking back. The second her plane took off, I called a moving company. Here's what Lila didn't realize. Her name wasn't on the lease. She'd moved into my apartment less than a year ago, but everything, the lease, the bills, most of the furniture, was mine. All she had brought were clothes, some books, and her ridiculous candle collection that could fumigate an entire city block. By Wednesday, every single one of my things was packed and out. I was precise about it, took only what belonged to me, stacked all of her stuff neatly in the living room, and even left the utilities running so she wouldn't come back to darkness. On the fridge, I taped a note. "Lila, you're not the only one finding yourself. I discovered I deserve someone who doesn't take romantic getaways with her ex. Your belongings are safe here. Lease ends in 3 weeks. Talk to the landlord if you want to stay. I'm gone." Then I walked out. Friday morning, I was sitting in my brand new apartment on the other side of town. Fresh paint, better water pressure, quiet neighbors. No ghosts of Jason, no reminders of broken promises. For the first time in months, I actually felt like I could breathe. But Sunday, my phone buzzed with a number I didn't recognize. I ignored it. Then came an email. The subject line, "What have you done?" The body was frantic. She'd cut the retreat short. Apparently, things had gone downhill fast once Jason's girlfriend back home discovered his little soul reset vacation. Lila came storming back, expecting me to pick her up, only to find the apartment half empty and a letter ending everything. Her words were full of panic. "This isn't funny. Where are you? Stop playing games. We need to talk face to face." I didn't reply. By Monday afternoon, more emails filled my inbox. Long, rambling paragraphs about betrayal, about how cruel I was, about how she couldn't possibly afford the rent alone. Then came the accusations, how I was manipulative, controlling, heartless. She even threatened to tell everyone I abandoned her during a spiritual emergency. Still, I stayed silent. That night, my buddy Mark, who still lived in the old building, called me. "Man, you won't believe what I just saw. Lila showed up with Jason. They were dragging boxes, screaming at each other in the parking lot. She kept shouting that you stole the apartment. Jason looked like he wanted the earth to swallow him." I laughed so hard I almost dropped my beer. "Sounds like karma came early," Mark chuckled. "You better grab some popcorn. This is just the beginning." And he was right, because by Tuesday, the situation exploded in a way I never could have predicted. Tuesday morning, I woke up to 3 missed calls from Lila's mom. Against my better judgment, I answered the next one. "How could you do this? To my daughter?" she demanded, before I even said hello. "Good morning to you too," I replied flatly. She came home crying, saying you abandoned her and left her homeless. She's not homeless, I said. Her stuff is stacked neatly in the living room. She's got 3 weeks to figure out a lease. That's more time than most people get. Her mother's voice rose. You're being cruel because you're jealous of her connection with Jason. I actually laughed. Deb, your daughter went on a 2-week retreat with her ex-boyfriend. That's not a connection, that's disrespect. She sputtered, then hung up. An hour later, my email pinged again. This time, Lila accused me of emotional abuse and said Jason agreed I was manipulative. Jason? The same Jason whose girlfriend had already kicked him out? I rolled my eyes and closed my laptop, but the drama wasn't slowing down. By Wednesday, my friend Mark gave me another update. Dude, you're not gonna believe this. Jason showed up at the apartment building with Lila again. They were screaming in the parking lot. Then she called her mom, yelling that you stole her future. Her future? I repeated. Yep. And here's the kicker. Jason got a phone call mid-argument from someone named Natalie. Turns out Natalie was his actual girlfriend, and she had no idea about this trip. He stormed off halfway through the fight, leaving Lila standing there with her boxes. I leaned back, shaking my head. This is like watching a soap opera in real time, Mark laughed. Except you're the villain in her story. That evening, I got another unknown text. Lila's having a panic attack. Can you please call her? I replied. Tell her meditation might help. Thursday, things escalated further. Lila showed up at my gym. I spotted her waiting near the entrance while I was leaving. She marched up, blocking my path. We need to talk, she said, her eyes red from crying. I kept walking toward my car. We don't, actually. You can't just ignore me. We were together for years. 8 months, I corrected, unlocking my door. The emotional connection was years, she snapped. You know that. What does that even mean? I asked. She grabbed my arm. Look, I get it. You heard about Jason, but nothing happened. Cool, I said. Then I guess you two just meditated your way out of a relationship. Her face twisted. Stop being sarcastic. This is serious. I don't have a place to live. You know I can't afford rent right now. Not my problem anymore, I replied. Then came the guilt trip. If you ever love me, you'll help me. I stared at her. I did love you, but you packed a backpack and ran off with Jason. That was your choice. Now live with the consequences. At that exact moment, a beat-up Honda pulled into the lot. Out climbed Jason, wearing a hemp necklace and his usual smug grin. Yo, man, can we talk? He said, trying to look tough. Nope, I replied, climbing into my car. Look, bro, you're making this harder than it needs to be. Lila needs stability right now. Then you give it to her, I shot back. His face went red. You're just threatened by our connection, I laughed out loud. Connection? You two lasted 5 days before your girlfriend caught you. That's not a connection. That's a long weekend. Jason shifted uncomfortably, but Lila jumped. Horror. You don't understand what we have, I started the engine. Clearly neither do you, since you're not living together. The look on her face was priceless. She'd apparently told her mom, and half her friends, that Jason was letting her move in. In reality, he'd been crashing with a buddy ever since Natalie kicked him out. I pulled away, leaving them both standing in the lot, furious and embarrassed. But deep down, I knew this wasn't over. Lila was the type who never walked away quietly, and sure enough, the storm was just beginning. Saturday morning, I woke to furious pounding on my door. When I checked the Ring camera, there she was, Lila, flanked by her mom, her younger sister, Jason, and some girl I didn't recognize. Behind them was a rented U-Haul. They looked like a protest group instead of a moving crew. Deb, her mom, started yelling into the camera. You need to man up and take responsibility for what you've done. I spoke through the speaker. I did. I moved out. That's not taking responsibility. That's running away, she screeched. Her sister chimed in. You're destroying her life over your ego. Her life isn't destroyed, I said calmly. She's just facing consequences. The stranger, who turned out to be Lila's friend from her failed craft business, piped up with a softer tone. Don't you think you're being a little harsh? Like, energetically speaking, this is very negative. You know what's negative? I shot back. Going on vacation with your ex and expecting me to sit at home smiling about it. Jason, genius that he is, tried my door handle. Dude, open up. We can work this out. Touch that handle again, and I'm calling the cops, I warned. He backed away instantly. Then came Lila crying. Except it wasn't sad crying. It was rage crying. I gave you everything. I decorated our apartment. I cooked for you. I made you a better man. You decorated with my money. You cooked twice in 8 months. And I'm the same man I've always been, I replied. The difference is, I'm done. They eventually left after I reminded them the entire circus was being recorded. But the chaos didn't end there. That night, I got an email from Lila titled Business Proposal. She wanted me to invest in her jewelry venture in exchange for equity. Her plan was literally 2 sentences long and asked for exactly 3 months of rent money. I forwarded it to Mark, who works in finance. His reply, is she kidding? By Monday, she'd gone nuclear. She blasted messages to my co-workers on LinkedIn, pitching her healing fine jewelry brand and explaining that we'd consciously uncoupled, but she was still looking for investors. My boss sent me a screenshot with a single line. "Everything okay at home?" I thought that was the peak, but I was wrong. Lila launched a GoFundMe titled "Help a Spiritual Entrepreneur Escape Abuse." She claimed I'd financially controlled her, sabotaged her career, and abandoned her in a mental health crisis. Her goal? 25 grand. The amount raised? $32, all from her mom. Then came the courthouse stunt. She filed a flimsy claim for emotional partnership damages. The judge looked at her paperwork, sighed, and dismissed it in 5 minutes. Outside, her friend filmed her ranting about systemic oppression of spiritual women. The video got 12 views, 11 of them from her mom's accounts. The final boss battle came a week later. My old landlord called, exhausted. "Your ex changed the locks? Says she has tenant rights. I'm starting eviction proceedings." I laughed. She wasn't even on the lease. To make it worse, she spelled her own name wrong on the fake paperwork she printed, since the utilities were still under my name. I shut them off. Within an hour, her sister called, screaming, "Turn the power back on. She's running a business in there." "That's called squatting," I said. "Good luck." By Friday, police escorted her out. She tried to sage the officers on the way, yelling something about mercury being in microwave. 2 weeks later, the dust settled. Lila moved back into her childhood bedroom. Jason went crawling back to his girlfriend, who now posts passive-aggressive quotes about forgiveness. As for me, I'm in a new apartment, dating someone who laughs about the whole ordeal instead of creating it. And when she jokes about us going on a self-discovery trip, we both know the punchline. Sometimes the best discovery is realizing when it's time to walk away. Looking back at everything, it's almost unreal how fast a relationship can unravel when trust is broken. Lila thought she was going on a trip to find herself, but in the end, what she really uncovered was how fragile her own choices were. And me? I learned something important too, that sometimes silence, boundaries, and walking away say more than any argument ever could. Maybe you've been in a similar situation, watching someone you love make reckless choices, expecting you to clean up the mess. It hurts. It's frustrating. But stories like this remind us that self-respect isn't selfish, it's survival. If you've ever been blindsided by betrayal or pressured into tolerating something you knew was wrong, you probably felt the same mix of anger and clarity I did. And maybe hearing this gave you a little strength to stand taller in your own life. Here on Family True Tales, that's what these stories are all about. Real people, raw choices, and lessons we sometimes learn the hard way. Every single day, we share new stories just like this one. Emotional, shocking, and unforgettable. So if you connected with this, hit that like button, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe so you don't miss tomorrow's story. Because tomorrow and the next day, and the day after that, there will always be another true tale waiting for you. Sometimes the endings hurt, sometimes they inspire, but every story teaches us something, and the next one might just be the one you need to hear.